A huge, massive happy Friday to everybody involved. Thank you for coming back, to all the wonderful people that watch this show. A big, massive thank you and happy Friday. Let's play it extra loud as the phone goes. Artist Journal, February 2nd, 2024. Feeling like I'm in a spaceship today, watching the stars go by. My name's Adrian Pocobelli, and welcome back. A wonderful, wonderful show ahead of us today with insanely beautiful and enigmatic and brilliant and horrific and brilliant works like this by the great Rat Cloak, always keeping things interesting, always evolving here in this work that magically fits perfectly to this screen here. Amazingly. I almost need to zoom out here just so you can get a picture of it with a little bit of margin. And so here, and we'll come back to it again, but let's look at the title. Interestingly, going back to No Kings, No Masters, this series here, and actually let me just show you. This is Rat Cloak's, Rat Cloak's page, of course. If you're not familiar, artist out of Ukraine, who we've been happily following here on this show, I'd say since like the probably since the very beginning. The way this show started was I'd pick a painter or an artist, and I'd basically feature an artist. I think, although the very first one was acquisitions on Tezos, or recent acquisitions on Tezos. But then I'd kind of pick an artist. I think, I don't even remember at this point. It has been, we're on 293 here. So all to say, you see this? These are the series here. So here is this the newest? This is the newest. Okay, so this is from No Kings, No Masters, interestingly. These works here by Rat Cloak are from a series called Roadside, which actually helps us understand this one because it kind of looks like the title of the series here. Like this is someone walking along with all their belongings on the side of a road, which may not be that far from reality. Also in the hospital, these are somewhat, I think we could argue, at least on a symbolic level, autobiographical. Of course, because I do remember on X that Rat Cloak had posted what seemed to be a shot from a hospital, and of course, here's someone in a hospital bed here. So, of course, these can be found on Object. If you want to look at these all up close, I do highly recommend it. So this is from a series called No Kings, No Masters, which really takes us back. If we go using Object's brilliant new website that they've updated, their brilliant update, this is one of I'll show you the work. I mean, many of you have seen this before, but many of you probably haven't. Look at that price, 22,000 Tezos. Who put the 25? Is that Howdy Do? I was going to guess. The great troll of Tezos, Howdy Do, putting in a 25 Tezos offer on there. And that's why we love you. Howdy Do. That's why we love you. This work here is actually where I learned about Rat Cloak. When did this come out? I saw this on Twitter. This is January 27th, 2022. We're talking 2 years ago. And just to zoom in here, I believe done with Microsoft Paint. So this is, I think, the first work from that series. And there you see a bored ape, decapitated here. So kind of an interesting, and here this person, are again kind of autobiographical, at least symbolically, with the Hannibal Lecter mask, the Rat Cloak figure with the star on the eye and the straitjacket. A terrifying image, I might add. And then even these guys in the front. I mean, what is going on here? Brilliantly and expertly painted. Look at the bullets. A kind of Raphael of Microsoft Paint here. So just a brilliant, and even this contrast here in the dress. I don't want to get too distracted, but for those that maybe don't know Rat Cloak and why Rat Cloak is revered in this, community, it's for works like this. These are the works, and even the ANRX, Anarchy. I'm not sure, but yeah, brilliant. So, No Kings, No Masters. This was the first work from this brilliant series here, and yeah. So all to say, and this work here finally, and then we're going to go back to the work in question. But I do want to give a little bit of context here. Then there's this genius work here, where the rat cloak figure, again, you see the Hannibal Lecter mask, the white kind of makeup in the star, almost David Bowie-esque. Almost, is that like a pixelated McDonald's hat? I mean, awesome. And again, up close, kind of rough in a really beautiful way. And there you see probably a reference to Rada, Purple Drank, Myth, Baziah, Mikey Wilson, M.F. Drew, and The Isolationist, I believe. And there's ISO. So, pretty rad. I'm actually really happy I could name each person there. So you see, 2 years ago, La Creme de la Creme, La Creme Land. Endlessly inventive rat cloak. And so let's go back here. And with that being said, with all that context, again, isn't that exciting for those people that might not know Rat Cloak's work to discover those works and to be like, again, if you need, examples of why Tezos and just what is happening on the blockchain that you might not be aware of or that your friends might not be aware of, you can show them works like that and feel, and feel that if people still don't get it, that it's their problem, not your problem, if you know what I'm saying. So, all to say, let's take a closer look. So, you have to kind of love this too. Joy Division, Unknown Pleasures on this figure here. And again, it's hard, especially as we see this writing here, it's hard to escape that Rat Cloak is in Ukraine here. And again, we see it here maybe with the missile, maybe an air raid siren, and here this arguably tempting to think autobiographical. Again, the Rat Cloak figure in its current incarnation, kind of Francis Bacon-esque head here, with this beautiful girl but two-headed. So simultaneously kind of beautiful and simultaneously kind of frightening to a certain degree. And let's look at this beautiful, beautiful dress. So interestingly, and all of these dogs almost giving a sense of a kind of family within the darkness here. And even this kind of classic, kind of industrial background here, broken fence. There's a sense of almost like we were seeing in that series called Roadside, a kind of homelessness to this, this person where, again, we saw those other figures carrying all their belongings. Not too dissimilar here. Not too dissimilar with almost all of these, dogs, these mutts or these lost dogs, and this beautiful painted ground, I might add. It's almost like there's something quite, I would argue, tempting to say heartwarming about this image for all of its non-heartwarming aspects. There's something quite heartwarming about it, and you see it in, just like the beautiful treatment of the girl here. And there is this, almost alien-like, blood has gone cold-blooded figure here. And again, the apropos, perhaps, Joy Division, Unknown Pleasures, the darkness, right? And look at the hand just kind of melting off, Again, tempting to just, I don't even want to go to, with what horrific things you must witness in the reality, not some story, not some TV show, not some video, but in the reality of Rat Cloak's life. It is not abstract for Rat Cloak. So here, again, kind of a weird homage to family, I would argue. or at least that's the vibe that I am getting as I look at this beautifully painted work here. And again, so we're not in Microsoft Paint anymore. We're in Photoshop, interestingly, and using Photoshop brushes to great effect. Uninterestingly, I'd say similar style in terms of, you see all like the brushwork here in the hand. It's a little kind of, I'd say there's more sketchiness to it, so to speak. But you see that same kind of attention. And look at these beautiful shoes. And again, a kind of beautiful actual color here with the red, this painterliness here. But again, kind of, I'd say a kind of homage, a kind of happy image in some respects here, despite it all. And again, I just keep coming back to this Joy Division, of course, the great band. For those that might not know, you know who the two biggest influences on Ian Curtis, who is the lead singer of Joy Division? A lot of you know this, but a lot of you might not. Actually, when Ian Curtis was asked who were the two biggest influences, very pivotal, important figure in the history of, I guess you'd call it rock, for lack of a better word, is William Burroughs and J.G. Ballard. Those were his two biggest influences. And of course, there's a song called Interzone. Of course, after Burroughs. Of course, there's a song called The Atrocity Exhibition. I think at the first song on Closer. And still, for those that, are into the music, still is that was their third album that was just kind of demos in the first half. It's a double album. It was never released because, unfortunately, Ian Curtis committed suicide at the young age of something like 21, insanely. I can't remember what I was going to say. But if anybody ever feels bad out there, don't do what Ian Curtis did, is all I have to say there. But yeah, all to say, we're talking about Still. And those are demos. But what I would say about Still, I'd say it's actually my favorite Joy Division album. And I say that because maybe a lot of people listen to Unknown Pleasures and Closer, since they're kind of more official albums. The songs, on Still, that was going to be like the greatest album by far. Works like Ice Age, even the opening track, the intensity, Dead Souls. Anyways, I think, how long have 12 minutes here? And I feel like I could talk for another 20 minutes here with this brilliant artist and everything. So big shout out to the great. And of course, I follow all these people. I follow Dina. Don't worry. That is an X glitch. So big shout out to Ratcloak there and everything. More beautiful art in Ukraine there. So also big shout out and thank you to everybody who showed up to the Twitter space on Wednesday. Trying out the new schedule here. So I kind of put out a show right after the Twitter space. So maybe I'll try and space that out more on Wednesday. Ideally, maybe I put out the show earlier and then a couple hours later, you put out the space or do the space at the usual time here. Anyways, it was a lot of fun. Salawaki out of the Philippines, we learned there. So that was a ton of fun, and big shout out and thank you also to Dina Chang for co-hosting there, filling in for Runetoon, who I think should be back next week after he gets back from Asia. So, but yeah, a big thank you to Dina Chang and to Salawaki and to everybody, all 309 people who tuned into this. Ton of fun and just super interesting and fun. Let's look at the comments here on last show. Of course, the Bellinis there. Let's look here. Okay, we found him. Space End of Video. Okay, so this is the Wednesday. Yeah, so blessed. Excellent. Okay, thank you, Human Boy. So yeah, I'm loving the new schedule, by the way. So I hope it's working out for everybody else. This kind of Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I think it's got a bit more of I like the cadence of the rhythm of just kind of skipping a day, then you go the weekend, then you skip a day, I kind of like the cadence, and the reason I wanted to do it was to free up a little bit more time to do art, and it's been great. On Thursday, it's completely blank, so I made art all day, and you know what was great about that is when you do that, having a dedicated day is enough to create the narrative and the habit of the art so that on the Friday, like today, I start and I already have that art narrative in my head of what I'm doing. I spent all day the day before doing it. So all of a sudden you have what, they call the big momentum. And then you have a conversation going on in your head, and that is so key. So it feels like a game changer over here. So I'm really excited about that. So all to say, yeah, Wednesdays you're going to get a ton of content. So great to hear from you, human boy. And as he says here, I heard last episode it was to spend more time on your art, so I'm happy to hear that. Hope you find balance that works for you. So yeah, it's feeling pretty good so far. Thank you. Gogolitis, thank you. Great to hear from Gogolitis, such a great artist, as well as human boy. And Lord Misfit, love your intro, love the show. Thanks for doing this. Well, thank you for listening to all the wonderful people, as I was saying, who check out this show and comment and like and everything. Did pretty well so far. It's just very fun. I'm always amazed at how people continue to support this show, and it is deeply appreciated. Lucas Lejeune, thanks, Adrian. Great show. Thank you. Retro Manny, you've unlocked the secret of time travel, just in case anyone is wondering how you're able to get so much done. Yeah, Wednesday is a full day of doing this project. It's a ton of fun. What else here? We'll just see if we're in the singularity now. There's no going back or forwards. Everything is all at once. Absolutely. Artist Journal Infinity. I love it. Number Infinity. Denise Sanchez. Hello, Adrian. Thanks to you, I'm getting to know great artists. Glad to hear that. Your reviews and comments are very good. Yeah, I hope that's why I continue, because longtime viewers might wonder why I'm going back into works we've looked before with Rat Cloak. There are a lot of new people, actually, that continue to come on here and discover this show. So so that is the reason why. So I'm really glad to hear that, Denise. Really great to hear. Noel Rose, you seem pretty cool. Okay, thank you. Let me write a comment and like some of your stuff. Yeah, absolutely. You're more than welcome. Followed, as I said here. And Trippy Collector, a Wednesday episode. Yes, indeed. So again, really excited for the new schedule here. As Lily Illo says, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Of course, Lily's in Australia. Is Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday for me. So the global you is actually working every day except Sunday. So it's all beautiful out here. Lepro Chant, big shout out. And Wasteman Goldminovich talking about his work. Thanks for including my piece, Tez Life, Adrian. The piece with the guy on the bicycle in the front, the two-person bicycle. This piece is about being a Tezos artist and how it's a bit crazy. Not really a parody of anything except myself and the Tez Life. So just having fun there. Phoebe Hess, some thoughts on the relevance of the new Apple glasses for NFT art. So let's actually take a very quick look at that. Jerome Alavina, thank you for featuring my work. You're welcome. Big shout out and great work. And number one and Vamped with the great series there. Wonderful to see Pixellands featured. Absolutely. Beautiful series there. I think, was it on Zora or Foundation? It was on Foundation. So let's see if we can look. So in last month, this was interesting. I actually met Phoebe Heese the other day. It was in Berlin, so that was fun. We went for lunch. It was actually a lot of fun. In the last months, I collected 125 3D works on Object. Why on Tezos? Because I think the future will be multi-chain, and it will be only how good the art is. So again, a discussion we've long had here, which is in the future, will the chain matter? Because of course, art on Tezos is so much cheaper than art on ETH. I do wonder if Bitcoin will be an exception to that. I do wonder about that. And because the future is spatial. So again, this is the takeaway here. So Phoebe Heese is collecting 3D like GLBs because the future is spatial. In a sense, they're virtual sculpture, right? So, and here are all the works. We'll see if it loads up here. See if the internet is playing nice for us today here. And so just picking up a ton of 3D artworks here. So very interesting, and they're all pretty reasonably priced here, or some of them are like very reasonable. Look at that security cam, 1 Tezos. So check that out if you're in the market for virtual sculpture. Also RJ, who we started out with last time. Let me hit pause on there. Thank you, Pocobelli, for highlighting Cape Cod Screen and Next Wave Pixelland works. Also, so right about the variety of representations of these paintings online. I find it really interesting that the internet spawns all these different versions, and we wade through them. Actually, let me bring that up. Pocobelli net. I'll show you the series, RJ, in case you haven't seen that. It's called Related Images, where I actually, well, these are remixes, but if you go to earlier, in a sense, this is a version, because you see here, this Raphael here, Baldassare, Castiglione, you see they're different versions, and then I put the digital mask on top. If you look at the background there, you see it's kind of gray there, but kind of rich. These are just different, it's kind of based, and even here, and you see how they line up just kind of like a Google results page. This is also, you'll see the lighting in the background here. It's not as obvious on this one, but you'll see the face here with the lady with ermine looks warmer. Here it's a little cooler. Here it's quite warm, almost yellowish, right? So here's the Bellini Doge. So again, quite blue, and then of course you get the version with the watermark, so to speak here. So all sorts of variations on this project, but a fun, interesting project here. This is quite interesting, the different versions of the pipe, and then I'd play with masking. All to say, fun series here. And then we're going too far on it there, but all to say, it is an interesting discussion, and I have actually other works that are kind of more crystal clear. But yeah, it's a fascinating thing, and this is hilarious. Real Doge by Yuri J. So that is hilarious too. So awesome. Violet Tripp, thank you, Adrian. Yes, I do a lot of handwork. So of course, we looked at this work here, and we're really impressed at the combination of AI with kind of dithering and pixelation. Yes, I do a lot of handwork of my art, but all the characters are generated using Stable Diffusion, and sometimes fully. Sometimes I compose them like a collage from different generations. Sometimes I add more details manually, for example, eyes, eyebrows, hands. But in any case, AI greatly speeds up my work process and opens up new possibilities for my creativity. I'll post some examples below. And here we go. Windows UI created in Illustrator. All animations and effects are done in After Effects. And I think we actually, we're going to look at another, actually, Violet Tripp work today. But you see just a kind of a clue but you just write prompt and click the mouse. So just a clue into Violet Tripp's process here. You see how elaborate it is, isn't it? I wonder what software, it almost looks like, at one point it looked like Sprite, but then it looks like an Apple thing. So interesting. And there you go. Different beautiful colors here. Thank you, Violet Tripp. I had to show this. I mean, Mo S-H-I-T. Look at this. 151,000 views. So Mo has been putting out a ton of work. And with this kind of... it's an interesting series. I brought up a few of them here so we could look at the numbers, but these are amazing numbers. 151,754 retweets. So Mo making serious progress here with these kind of stitched AI works. Here is, what looks like a little girl at a computer and a dragon here and this great stitching. So there's another one here. Kind of similar theme, bit of a manga anime sort of style. 52,000 views. Artificial Heaven. Here's another one. Kind of has a bit of a video game feel in Alice in Wonderland. 44,000 views. So it's a wonderful thing to see. And again, the power of X, 23,000. So I think Mo's followers are growing quite rapidly right now. I think I looked yesterday, and I think like a couple of hundred more yesterday, like in a day, maybe more. So Mo is growing really fast. It's super impressive. And it just goes to show, I mean, when did this series start? Like 2 weeks ago? Never give up in this scene. And there's always, just always try new things. And 44,000 views later. So Mo, making a name for themselves here. Pure internet. Interestingly, it hasn't translated, at least in this piece, it still needs to mint. So kind of an interesting dynamic here. It's a different, in the sense that it could be a function of not as many people are set up on Zora, interestingly, and Mo has put out so many works that maybe from maybe it's harder to discover on Zora as well if you don't follow Mo and all this sort of thing. So it's interesting. Let's just very, very quickly look here. Let's see how it's doing in terms of this work that had, I think that had 151,000. Is it translating into sales? 51. That's pretty good. So there are so it is making progress here. So very, very cool to see this. So big congrats and shout out to Mo with these great looking works here. 19,000, and they look great. And again, there's kind of a cool video game feel to it. So this one was just released yesterday. And they don't all go, and so it kind of an interesting testament to putting out a ton of work. Because I think Mo's putting out, if I had to guess, 10 images a day. So just very, very interesting and cool. Hyperallergic, can AI be better at art history than us? So I think there's a book or an essay, Computational Formalism. So kind of a little bit lingo-ish here, but you know what that reminds me of? Zombie formalism. So now it's computational formalism. This stuff here, we've seen artists play with this, with almost like this kind of surveillance recognition, facial recognition kind of stuff here, beard, recognizing objects. This I find super interesting. Just a nice contrast, technology and tradition. And of course, this work, what is the name? It's Rembrandt, I think, The Anatomy Lesson, if I'm not mistaken. And this is from MIT, which of course is a pretty prestigious university. Computational Formalism, Art History and Machine Learning, 2023. And this is a review. Again, this was linked by Alain Servet, my favorite Twitter account there. You might be aware that artificial intelligence algorithms work from... So posing the question, can AI replace the human when it comes to art history? And I think the obvious answer to this, I think there's actually a really obvious answer, which is you'll never replace human viewpoint for something like art, but AI can deeply and super help you in terms of finding patterns, whether it's similarities between artworks, between different artists and everything. So obviously AI is going to help a ton, but I don't think it'll do the final step, at least not yet, unless they get that super intelligence. So let's just look at a little bit. Despite our little to complete lack of comprehension of their inner workings, AI has rapidly become the controversial talk of the art world. Midjourney, Stable Diffusion. To the chagrin of many, we have decided to bestow AI with prizes over ourselves in art contests. Now scholars ponder if its tools can also aid. So sweeping generalizations here. And here it's basically a review. Jargon-free. The book's most critical aspect surrounds the pros and cons of using AI to identify art images and resolve attribution. So just kind of an interesting discussion here. Points out that datasets. So Wasilewski points out that datasets making use of deep learning can be problematic since they are typically fed information from the Western art canon, which is subject to human-led academic biases, which is interesting and likely true. It seems inevitably true. Deep learning may also affect notions of authenticity in the art market. Yeah, I mean, could they help with, say, Salvador Mundi? Interesting question. I don't know if we're making any progress here in this review or in this book, though. But can it interpret art? I mean, this is the question, right? So this is kind of maybe this could be written in a page and a half. The answer is a fairly straightforward no, as we just discussed. AI lacks human researchers' ability to engage in primary study of techniques and the capacity to contextualize an artwork within history. Quite simply, AI cannot reason why artworks look the way they do. And it's the irrational component, as I've kind of long said here. My little definition of art, or one of the ways of defining art is it's a poetic form of design. It's like art is design. Art is in the umbrella of design. A website is in design, but art is poetic design, so it uses the irrational. It's poetic. It's symbolic. It triggers instinctual things. It's with human nature. It works for reasons we don't even understand on a biological level. It's right there at the beginning of human civilization. So there's something deeply about us in art. And so it's almost the stuff we can explain about ourselves. I think AI can reason quite well. It's almost the irrational that it can't do. It's the poetic that it's going to struggle with. It can contextualize it, but I'm not sure if it can go much further than that. So her thesis that AI is not suited for a humanistic pursuit of art history comes through strongly, but it could have been supplemented by further information in the form of more case studies and then copyright infringement. So a rational balance, this is what I was saying, between embracing and repudiating AI in the study of art sounds desirable, though this may be a complicated feat until we prioritize demystifying the enigmatic. Yeah, I mean, I think these are a lot of words. If I had to just kind of be really blunt about it, there's a lot of words here. This can all be discussed in a page and a half, as far as I'm concerned. But interesting, I think the question is interesting, and so we bring it up here. This is also quite funny, too. Again, another Alain Survey link here. Journalist goes undercover to reveal the absurdity of the art scene. So another book that came out, get the picture, and basically just talking about what I think most of us already know, which is kind of what would you call it? Kind of the, inward looking, the solipsistic kind of looking bubble of, it's a kind of a bubble, right? Culturally speaking, of the art world at its highest sort of most rarefied parts of it. So just kind of interesting here. And, I'd actually say there's nothing new here, but just kind of interesting to read this review. We're already 30 minutes in, so I don't think I'm going to go too deep, but it's interesting just the discussion here on New York's contemporary art scene in general. Nothing too surprising, kind of confirming kind of what you might already think about it. Let's continue here. This was just cool. These are photos of the Barbara Kruger show. I thought this was quite brilliant. I shopped there 4 a.m. That is hilarious and powerful work. Really resonates. And then here are other versions, interestingly. So, just interesting shots. Interesting there, almost like a gift, like a GIF. So just interesting shots of the Barbara Kruger exhibition. And also Strange Thing, just a shout out to Strange Thing, GM internet friends, been quiet lately due to a tough COVID battle and some heavy meds. It was bad, and I'm just thankful to be alive. Recovery's slow, but I'm getting there. So just wanted to give a big shout out to Strange Thing here, and glad you're doing better. Gradually starting to do some artwork again to keep me occupied, but might take it easy with posts to avoid overdoing it. Sounds like you got a terrible case of COVID. I'll try to find new work I missed while away and do some collecting while I'm on bed rest. So just wanted to say a big shout out to the brilliant Strange Thing here, and get well soon with this brilliant artwork. And look at this wonderful, I didn't even see this at first, these wonderful brushstrokes. So hopefully was at the top here. So hopefully was able to make it while, at least with AI, it's not as, still takes a lot of kind of mental effort, I'm sure, and just thought process, which takes energy. But at least it's not as, like physical painting, which can be quite exhausting, actually, from a physical level. If you're standing all day, that was great over here. So just a really cool, brilliant work here. AI artwork by the genial Strange Thing here. So get well soon there. And also, Andre Oliveri, I think I saw got dengue fever. Is it dengue fever? So also kind of, and of course the person who makes these brilliant glasses here. As we were looking on an earlier episode, so I hadn't seen these updates, and so I took a look. So this is a reserve of 12, explores the intersection of reality and illusion, creating a visual and sensory narrative that challenges perception. The collector receives the physical piece, head included, shipping costs paid separately by the collector. So you get the head here too. So, yeah, so again, get well soon to Andre Oliveira, and more just brilliant work here. I think we had something else here. So this is just announcing this work here on exchange.art on Solana. For a lightening the vibe here, we have Lorna Mills debut on Solana. So my own business launching February 5th. So just to lighten the vibe here, we got some Lorna Mills, and that looks like Britney up to getting into trouble here. Lorna bringing out that Britney. So all just too hilarious over there. And check this out. Spiegel's Maskinen, keeping it real. Not messing around here with a vintage Macintosh. This is one of those things that sound great in theory, but in practice could be pretty tricky. Kind of a watch this space. It'll be interesting to see what Spiegel's does from here. Like, exactly. I was going to say, it just shows how, is it even going to work? Every time I load up, we used to have an Apple IIe, and I think I loaded it up, or old computers, and it always seems like a good idea, and then it's just like, oh man, this takes forever. But hopefully it works out. Let's continue here. Object.com, we are excited to announce object galleries. So we were seen with Fake Whale tease this out. Our exclusive and trusted launch partner, Fake Whale XYZ, will present the first decentralized autonomous gallery, which seems to be a new term. There's, of course, decentralized autonomous organization. So a DAG, which is a DAO, this is a DAG. So quite impressive. Object trying to really make a play for what is a digital art gallery? How does it actually work on the internet? And trying to do looks like to me a credible version of a digital art gallery with all the bells and whistles. Smart contract-based system tailored to digital galleries, enforceable fee and royalty structure, high-value sales facilitation, open invitation, customizable gallery and exhibition pages. So nice to see a lot of things going on. First, they had the curation. So Object is not relaxing and doing nothing here. They're moving pretty fast and impressively. And when they put out stuff, as we're going to see, as Gogolitis is going to mention, they do a really good job. Like that update they did on the website I called it perfect. It was like a perfect update. And of course, there's little tweaks here and there. But overall, it was a brilliant update. It gave you kind of everything you wanted. So extendable minting options, including one-of-ones, limited, so all sorts of stuff. And here's the ad. And so almost like old Apple text there. Object galleries. And so, yeah. So here's the ad. And as Popple says, please translate. So I'm sure we'll get more details soon. And also another update here. We're enhancing the control over your own tab with new features. The ability to manually hide tokens in an automated system that automatically hides tokens sent to you directly by default. This feature primarily addresses token spam. So interesting, almost taking a page out of OpenSea's playbook there. So an interesting feature. Because there are times, I'm sure all of us have experienced, where you're kind of creating your perfect page of just tokens, then all of a sudden you get, literally it'll be something, literal image spam. Oftentimes you get beautiful works too. And it's an interesting thing. I mean, I've done it once. I'll probably never do it again, which is rewarding people for buying previous works. But then one person didn't even like it and sold it for 10 cents. And I was like, you know what? Some people might not want. Anyway, this is interesting and maybe solves that issue. Let's continue here. Kelowna Contemporary. In the spirit of our mission to bridge the worlds of traditional and digital art, pigment to pixels, As we like to call it, all our work is in the service of art is in all its manifestations. We do so that ultimately we tell the very story of humanity through art in the most relevant and consequential way that we can. With that in mind, the gallery will be undertaking a series of projects in service to artistic curiosity and telling the stories that matter today and capture the human spirit. So you can read all about this in Kelowna Contemporary, but they continue more evolution from the physical art side in this scene. So it's all quite impressive because, of course, like innovation is like just individuals, you know, it's just it's people doing stuff like this. So it's just grounds for bullishness and optimism. Also from Michele Colonna, who is the gallerist that owns Kelowna Contemporary, of course. As a collector with an emphasis on digital for the last 3 years, I find myself thinking of the entire artist's output as art rather than compartmentalizing digital from traditional or physical. I think it's just more a natural and organic way of assimilating digital and canonizing it. Very interesting, and I agree with this. Exactly. Like, again, as I always say here, multimedia, you know, multi-chain, multi-platform, multimedia. I happily work, you know, digitally and physically, and it's very important for me. You know, like as a digital artist that was making digital before I discovered the blockchain and NFTs, before there were NFTs, or at least on Ethereum, the main challenge of a digital artist, I would argue, before NFTs was how to make a work physical so that you could actually make some money with your art and not just have this thing on the screen in this JPEG that's worthless. So all to say, when you take a step back, yeah, like I agree. Like I wouldn't see them as separate. And also, here's a shot from the gallery here. Kelowna Contemporary is showing a show by Adam Disbrow, who is AD, contemporary physical and digital artist. So here are some examples here. And we've seen some of AD's work digitally. So here, mixed media, oil stick, gesso, graphite. So cool work there. And this is on Kelowna Contemporary in the gallery there. So looking pretty cool there. Speaking of which, here's Uxine, Create Illusion of Purpose. So some screen prints here, different colors on beautiful paper here. That is either an A3 or an A3 plus. Really nice. I love these. I was talking to someone last night. I was at an art opening last night, and the artist, Arno, we were talking about these margins here, which sometimes just accidentally kind of come out, you know, just by virtue of the size of the paper. But these margins at the top and the bottom of the screen print here really add a lot, I think. It really helps. To me, it looks great. Rather than cutting off the image, or sorry, the paper right here, it really helps the work. It's part of the composition, weirdly. But anyways, that's a side note. Here are more examples of what are Uxine's manual, you know, handmade screen prints, okay, with nothing tying it down for registration, just doing it manually. To great effect, and it looks really cool. As you can see here, all sorts of nice random stuff, beautiful colors, and everything. Here's a little bit more. So I think we saw this digital work last episode from Element Lee, laser test. And so let's actually see if we can take a closer look here. So we were looking at this work as part of that Pixel Lens exhibition. I'm pretty sure it's the same one. And here already we have the physical version. And you know, it's not just from an artistic integrity point of view that we could argue, hey, this is good. This not only does it add credibility to the larger world that you make physical work, but maybe more importantly, it adds credibility in your own world. I'm making physical work and I'm understanding how these mediums relate to each other. And therefore, and that's an interesting conversation as an artist, philosophically, into my practice and what I do. So not only does it have, you know, do we learn about what we're doing by trying it out in different mediums, as this might be, in other words, this might be giving Element Lee ideas with when Element Lee goes back to the phone and starts going back to the experimental pixel art, seeing how this results, especially this burning and everything. So not only is there that, so a kind of philosophical advancement through conversation with oneself through using different mediums. There's also a market side to it, where not only does Element Lee have the digital, but now there's a physical iteration, a physical manifestation of the work, which as far as I'm concerned is, I don't know if I'd call it a completely different artwork, but it is a separate artwork that is sellable on its own. So there's kind of a market benefit to working multimedia here and beyond and making physical versions, as we see with Uxine there. These are different versions. They can all be sold separately, right? So there's also, like, I'd argue, a financial reason to do it too. So all very interesting, philosophically and from a business perspective. Gogolitis talking about object here. I've explored various marketplaces. Each has its unique strengths. And of course, Gogolitis has a lot of experience with design. But it's essential to underscore that none even come close to the user experience offered by object. I completely agree. One could even argue that a lot of the staying power of art on Tezos, a lot of things, not exclusively, because of course it started with Hiket Nunk, but a lot of the staying power and I would argue, of art on Tezos, a big part of that can be thanks to object, I would argue, and this user interface. We can't underestimate how important this is, and Gogolitis is recognizing that, I think, totally accurately. Amidst the clutter of numerous marketplaces, visibility is often compromised. Distinguishing ownership or tracing the comprehensive history of a piece, sales offers, transfers becomes a significant challenge. This is a crucial concern for me, both as a collector who values access to such information, and as an artist reliant on my collectors having to access these details. In contrast, Object excels in this domain. Its top-notch user interface, clear and comprehensive homepage, and transparent detailed piece histories make it effortless to discern who owns what and to understand the journey of a specific piece over time. Effortless. I completely agree, and that's easier said than done. I genuinely believe that all NFT marketplaces in Web3 should take Object.com as an example, because in my view, there's no debate. Object currently outshines others in these vital aspects. I am well aware that there are other aspects that contribute to the success of a marketplace, and above all, this is just my opinion. But I think giving a kudos to Object and their user interface, it's well deserved, and in a sense, I don't think it's stated enough. I've said it a few times here, but I totally agree with you, Gogolitis. It's a brilliant, in the mistakes that are not made. I mean, so many of us, especially who have I worked in design and for a while, and back in Montreal a long time ago, you're always seeing issues that, I'd like to twist, I could tweak that, and if only they had this and only they had that. Object, I'm never saying that. I'm very rarely going, if only they did this after the new update. So again, just very cool. So here is Luciana Guerra at NFT Factory Paris. So I guess, did this already start? When is this? Wednesday to Saturday, 11 a.m. So today is Friday. So we might be in the middle of, I didn't realize it was so soon. So it's happening now. So here's Luciana Guerra. Of course, we see her work right here. And I think this is Mikel. And so in the middle here is Luciana Guerra. So a nice display here of works at NFT Paris. Nice Mika Oladev, not Mika Oladev, Mikkel Nolson, who did this work here, which is usually on Solana. You'll find the abstracts by Mika Nolson. So anyways, nice documentation, Luciana. And there's something to be said for documentation, because then some YouTube channel goes, hey, look at this. So well worth doing something. And I tell myself as much as anybody else, just a nice abstract here. I don't know if this is new, by Yuri J. Let your dreams stay your dreams. But I thought just a cool work. Kind of looks like it's from that Transition series, but pretty nice piece, isn't it? An interesting piece, an interesting abstract. Again, inherently digital abstract. This would not be made with traditional materials. And not necessarily an easy abstract. It's challenging work. Here's Cider, with what looks like an abstract, but you're never quite sure with Cider. Because sometimes it'll be willpower consumption. So we got a few here. Or maybe this is up close as we get a closer look here at this beautiful kind of disintegrating process here from Cider. So here is the work, and it's going to be minting soon. So a little preview here for you. So very cool work as usual from Cider. And here's Mumble Boy with some nice collage here. More digital collage, kind of almost looking like a person here with almost like 2 arms here and maybe some legs here, right? And so just kind of an interesting piece here. Really like the color on this one. And again, there's just something kind of very original, with Mumble Boy's work. The Pink Room, edition of 3, only 4 Tezos, and 1 sold to Little Cakes so far. Here's another one, Tiramisu by Mumble Boy. This is an edition of 1 and still available here. And again, you see some of these kind of classic digital gradients and just really interesting masking going on in this digital collage. And there, let's see what's going. Look at this. Almost looks like paper, which has been photographed. So, again, kind of playing with different mediums here. It looks, again, this looks very multimedia, doesn't it? So interesting work from Mumble Boy. Here's a beautiful, interesting work from Matthias Morano, 7 Virtues. The piece proposes to dive into the classic oasis of the 7 heavenly virtues, to learn from them, apply them, and transform them. So what was super interesting about this, and let me just show you actually quickly here, if this loads up. So, of course, Matthias Morano has been doing this the last few works here, where there will be 25 of this first version, then 7 in black and white, and then a 1-of-1 kind of hologram version. So here is the edition of 25, and let's just look a little bit closer here. Quite a large work here, as you see. And there's some Bitcoins in there and some tattoos. So interesting kind of play with kind of seemingly some mythological references and some crypto references. And just some interesting tattoos and illustration here. Again, kind of has a Greek feel to it there, doesn't it? So interesting piece, for sure. And how much is this again? This is 111 Tezos. So that's on secondary. So selling out at what looks like around 40 Tezos, accepting offers. So very popular artist here and just beautiful work. And so let's look at the black and white. And this is an edition of 7, and these are transferred, interestingly, to other collectors here. Not sure who gets them. Maybe a lottery, maybe the first top 7 collectors, not sure. So here is the black and white version, interestingly. So again, similar but completely different, isn't it? So again, kind of interesting philosophically. What does the black and white version look like? But also from a market perspective, not a terrible thing to do either. All of a sudden you have a completely other version. And again, with digital, you can do this. With like a physical painting or illustration, how are you going to, if you reproduce it, it'll be like an inkjet. You could also repaint it, but it would have a weird kind of feel to it. So again, here's the ink version, the ink mix. It'd be tempting to call it. Let's continue here. And here's the hologram mix. Let's see if we can get it to play. And this is an edition of 1. So really beautifully done here. And this was sent to Bijou. So look at that. So just like a trading card, you got the hologram version. And I have to say, quite a beautiful hologram that just shimmers across there with that almost old kind of Sumerian flower that you see going across there. This is a different version, though. This isn't the same work, is it? But it is. You see, because we see this person. So how interesting. It looks like removing, or at least just transforming. So the figures have outlines, but then the rest has this kind of hologram feel. So again, just interesting variations, using the digital medium to make different variations on a work. Very interesting. Here is Rinnyfish with a new work on Solana. This is a reserve of 1. And let's get the sound going here. So another heartwarming work here. Playing again with this interesting kind of disintegration filter. Or what, I don't know if that's a filter, but kind of disintegrating the images here around the edges. So beautiful work there on Solana, exchange.art from Rinnyfish. just minted, I think, today, if I'm not mistaken. Let's continue here. Nuv 1914 with a couple of new works here. Panda. So another super edgy, as you can tell from the clouds here. Look at these clouds, these outrageous clouds, and this outrageous panda here. So here, more animals. Here's a panda, and here, or maybe stuffed animals too. This looks like a stuffed animal here, a bear. And look at this gradient again across here. Again, very just bold decision making here. That is not easy. Okay, as far as I'm concerned, that is really not easy to do, and just wonderful stuff like this. You see that stripe, you see that curve, you see how the gradient doesn't go all the way to the edge. Just very interesting and cool. Again, the background, this outrageous gradient going across here. Not easy to be irrational like that. What I'd argue is irrational. Nuv 1914 may have a different interpretation, and maybe it's quite rational to Nuv 1914. Let's see if I can load this up here on the big screen. A new one from Uxine on Object called Reaper. There we go. And there we see the GIF in action here. So kind of a minimal work, again, with a lot of margin here, letting it breathe and some nice noise in the background. Pretty cool work. I love the margin. And then here you see this, like, you know, whatever that is, 3 crossed out. So interesting. 250 Tezos on secondary, selling out, or just transferred. Cool. Just transferred probably to previous collectors, one assumes. And so now 250 Tezos. And here, Moda MT, Los Trapos. Kind of another kind of heartwarming work here. An interesting kind of psychological work here. Again, as we've been seeing from this artist, oftentimes seemingly to be, it seems to be at home in this kind of introspection. And it almost has the feeling of Jan van Eyck work of that married couple that's so famous with it's like an early oil painting. I mean, it kind of has a similar, I would argue, kind of psychological introspection going on here. I'm thinking about this person's life, and I'm seeing this person seemingly contemplate their own life. And with all of this contemporary imagery and just interesting stuff like a sewing machine, a Vanguard flag, and these butterflies coming in here, just interesting, I think a provocative, a poignant work here from Moda MT. Just a super interesting artist, as ever. 5 Tezos, edition of 10. Couple have sold. Aw heck, Mikey Wilson, great collectors there. Wasteman Goldminovich, a good cop. So kind of a humorous work here from Wasteman Goldminovich. Of course, maybe a little bit of satire there and there, giving directions to maybe a couple of Vanguard artists here. And just hanging out, and just actually really nicely painted again. And here we see, maybe a Vanguard sign of someone maybe flipping the bird here. And there's the spray paint on the stop sign. And the, perhaps naive ranger there giving directions. 3 Tezos. Interesting piece, and edition of 13. Here's another one from Wasteman Goldminovich, the Tezos Kid. And here, just kind of an interesting, Wasteman Goldminovich is a very prolific artist, as you can see. So, and I love that. There's something very powerful. That's what I aspire to, and why I'm, again, so glad with this new schedule. What I aspire to is basically whenever I'm not doing something, that I need to do, is to be drawing, or on the iPad or on the computer, making art. Because if you do that, all sorts of gems start to come out. If you have a little bit of talent, basically, all sorts of gems are going to come out. And, it's always the same. Either by the first day, if you haven't done it for a while, it's kind of tough and you feel like you can never make a great artwork again. By day 2, you're like, oh, okay, some things are starting to happen. And by day 3, you're like, oh, this could be one of my best works. And, it's just like I've been there so many times that that's why I'm such a huge, you might say, advocate of being prolific. So here's just a very prolific artist, all sorts of interesting work coming out here. So a Tezos Kid, I don't know if there's too much to explain. And here, Again, kind of a vanguard. And there's the Tezos sign on the eyelids there. So just interesting painting here, again, from Wasteman Goldminovich. Edition of 15, and look at this. Sold out at 2 Tezos. So this one really resonating there. LAG into NFT. This is by Vinnie Hager. Okay, so kind of an interesting illustration here. I think we've looked at some works by Vinnie Hager before. And interesting combination of illustration, user interface, and it looks like Tetris, but with an envelope. So an interesting substitution here. Kind of reminds you of Jake's Studios. Like these guys could have like a double, what they sometimes call a double solo show. Like you could have one in one room and the work of another in the other. They go beautifully together. Let's continue. More illustration here. Recipes for Disaster. This is OMG, I Drawed It. And this is an edition of 25 and just a couple sent out and not listed yet. So interesting work here. Someone who maybe is, I think we saw the same theme before of someone who is partying a lot. And here, Demons versus Brains. So maybe drink recipes there. So interesting juxtaposition here. Some Prosecco. And here, a record player. So interesting piece here. Recipes for Disaster 02. Putting the title in the work too, which is kind of a fun thing to do. Number 2 of a 10-part series from OMG, I Drawed It. Another work here by Katerina Create. So again, very interesting work here as usual, and keeping it new. Again, being very prolific. You know, there's a real benefit to being prolific to the artwork itself. So here is another work, and going back to the smoking theme of the Katerina Create character here, but this time with dark hair. And here we see a little bit of clouds moving in the sky, kind of like a sun. And then we see 2 of these animals here, probably horses, unsure, and the flowers growing out of the body of the main character here. Interesting feet here too. Interesting lack of feet, you might say. Cool work here, again, from Katerina Create. On Tezos, part of the Riders series, and this was sold for 20 Tezos, so another sale. So they're selling well, this series. And here's some beautiful work, also by Flora Marquez. Another 2 artists that could have that double solo or 2-room show. Beautiful. What's so fun about this work by Flora Marquez? It's from a series called Fashion Beasts on Zora. Lorena Mistral Marino. Doesn't it remind you of those those drawings by fashion designers, especially from like the 50s or 60s? Seems to be playing off of that a little bit, even in the style of dress here, with this kind of structure here that you'd build your dress around, almost kind of a, you know, early, like late 19th century style dress, perhaps. I'm not an expert on that, but here's another one, Letizia Morales Basterica. So again, but putting the bird figure in here, and then here we have a crocodile, so keeping the Flora Marquez kind of feel to it, and even a little bit of kind of magical Alice in Wonderland type feel to it. So cool work there in this series by Flora Marquez on Zora. Kind of suggestive work here, Furtive Glance here by Turkarak, always keeping things interesting and edgy here in this really brilliant and super edgy contemporary illustrator here. So interesting work here. This is a 1 of 1 for 15 Tezos by Turkarak. Here, is it Badala? Late GM. So I don't know if this is a new work or not, but just an interesting piece here by Badala. And I think it's illustration. I don't think there's any AI here. Interesting texture and combination of plants. Just interesting composition. Almost looking like someone reading in the sun in the park, but, you know, lifting their legs. Interesting texture and everything. Just interesting work. Here's another one by Ilio Givel. More what I'd be tempted to call surreal drawing. And where is this minted? This is on Foundation for a reserve of 0.15. And here you see what almost looks like a script kind of text, but with a long shadow here and then a white picket fence divided into this kind of simple landscape here with just a flat green and then a slight gradient sky. Just interesting color combination there too, with the red, the white, the blue, and the green. Very interesting. Here's another one by Santiago Ruao, I believe. Yes, it is. And this is on Zora too. So Zora doing really well. I still need to follow people now that they have the follow function. Another group that is iterating a ton here. So interesting to watch both these platforms develop here, and both popular and both doing really well for artists here. Cheap to mint, and it costs you nothing as an artist, and Tezos a few cents, which is probably the biggest selling factor. And there being a legion of collectors on both platforms. So all to say, interesting piece here, kind of inverting, putting red on blue and then blue on red. Nice piece here. I thought this was brilliant too. This is also on Zora. So our Zora posted this. Beautiful work here. And here we've seen a lot of these other ones here too. But that first one, look at this. This is quite beautiful here too. I mean, they're all beautiful. But I feel like I've seen a lot of these. But this other one, I wonder if it's this looks new. But I could be wrong. Anyway, very cool work, and kind of reminiscent of those late Max Ernst painting. Remember we were talking about asemic writing? Writing that looks like writing, but it's just visual and has no meaning. As far as I remember the definition, which we looked up, 250 episodes ago or 200 episodes ago, kind of has an asemic writing. Shall I do a very quick Max Ernst asemic writing and see if anything shows up? To show you what I'm talking about. Yeah, Max Ernst loved this stuff. I call it the visuality of text, is another kind of approach to this. And as you see here, just kind of, it looks like text, but it's just image. You see it here. There are really great late Max Ernst paintings. Unfortunately, this isn't showing up too well here. Let me just do one more. If it loads up. We'll see if that loads up. And here, also on Zora, we have Spiegels for a 1 of 1. Interesting. So we saw this work on Twitter. Let me see if it loads up here. This really, really cool work. I may have to jump onto phone internet here. But playing with like the Photoshop canvas here. Let's see if this is... Yeah, I may have to... Let me just see. Here we go. We'll jump on the iPhone here. We will try. And there we go. Painting. It's funny. The power of looking at books, because, I know this from looking at this great Max Ernst book I had. They're still not showing the works, right? Not everything. This is a very important, actually, lesson here, which is, I think I called it Show This, again, a long time ago. Not everything makes it onto the internet. And that's, so books still have their value. It's still worth going to a Max Ernst book because you're going to see works that simply might not have been scanned in, so just interesting. I'll see if I can dig that up at some point. Let me see if this loads up. So hopefully we don't have too many struggles here. This beautiful work here. So it's all very slow. So yeah, probably have to do like a big cleanup of this computer here. We'll see if this, try one more time here. This beautiful work by Spiegels. We'll let things cool off here, and we'll go to this other work by Sabato while hopefully this is loading. So kind of another political work here from Sabato, referencing the Middle East, Israel, and Palestine, and everything that's going on here. Of course, the Rafah crossing. There are 3 entry points into Gaza. So here's one of the entry points, in and out. This goes over to Egypt. And so here, a poetic rendering of the tragedy of this situation here, with this angel figure kind of sitting on top of this boarded up, kind of beautifully gated border crossing here. So just another powerful work here. And you see the sky here with the stars, just a powerful, beautifully colored work here as part of the marginalia, which is kind of like if I remember right, kind of like Sabato's depressing drawings, as I think he was kind of describing them. Let's see. Okay, we got Spiegels. See if there's any volume here. See if we can play this. Here we go. There is volume. Interesting. Everything loading up very slowly here. But how cool is this? And unfortunately, we're going to give this one... We'll let that... See if we can let that load up a little bit more. And then keep going here, and we'll come back. This is pretty cool. Diptych by Ugo, of course, doing Daft Punk here in that kind of Ugo style here. And so, cool idea. Wondering whether to mint on Tezos or ETH. Cool piece there. This is still loading. And this was pretty cool, too. Let me get the microphone back here. This is pretty cool, too. This was by Armilk and doing a series of works here. Commodore, Opera, a series of collaborations. So here's with Manidal, here's with Slava 3, here's with Femiki, Mayu, Tombum Battle, Maxim Rykov, Buju, Buning, and putting them all out at once. Punk's Distorted, Cap'n, and Mech.txt, so all-star cast here. And what was really cool, again, Object, putting them on the daily curation here. So I thought this was probably a good way to kind of see everything just kind of quickly here. So great day for Armilk, owning the Object.com homepage here with these collaborations. So good work there. Very cool. And let's see if this is almost loaded, because we might... Here we go. I mean, pretty amazing work by Spiegel's Maskinen here. And that's not even, that's just 2/3 of it. Like, very, very nicely done here. So this is a 1 of 1 on Zora. Super duper cool from the great Spiegels. Keeping things amazing here. Okay, let me close this, or stop it. Okay, so that is 0.75 ETH on Zora. So interesting way of selling it. Let's continue here. And so here are just a couple of the works here by Maxim Rykov here. And here's one by Slava. Cool Nintendo controller on that one. Here's Manidal. I don't think I brought them all, unfortunately. I just loaded up a few randomly, by the way. Here's Tombum Battle. So all to say, and yeah, I already brought that up. Okay, continuing on. So check that out, just homepage Object. You've probably already seen it. Chaz, Duck Hunt. So continuing, I really love the background of this one because it kind of created this interesting ambiguity where it looks like, is it a window? Right? It almost turns this into like a cardboard cutout, or like where the screen is actually part of reality a little bit. But all to say, here's another arcade work by Chaz, who was doing the computers before, and now is doing the arcade games. Interesting decision with the background there. So this is a 1 of 1 again as well, and they're all selling 25 Tezos. So cool idea with the 1 of 1s. You know, if you haven't put out 1 of 1s as an artist, it's always it's kind of a fun idea. It's like Chaz was mostly editions, now putting out the 1 of 1s, and it's fun, especially in this kind of market. You know, because maybe it's a little trickier to sell, so it's good to change things up. And so Chaz is doing a good job there. And they're just 1 of 1s have a certain magic, right? Anyway, let's continue here. Padu, very cool, kind of video game looking work here. Like a pixel art work, and kind of looks like a lot of tropes you'd see from video games. And this is like a big tank with a knight, but doesn't look like a specific video game, interestingly. So very interesting there. And here's Violet Trip, again, using Stable Diffusion. Wow, we're at hour 13. How on earth has this happened? Okay, well, I'm going to speed up a bit here, but Stable Diffusion, Illustrator, and After Effects, as we were seeing in the intro there. So cool work here from Violet Trip. I mean, this is why I don't have time for my art, because these shows, I don't know how they're getting so long. I think it's the intros where they're getting long. Anyway, beautiful work here as part of this series, a Violet version. Françoise Gamma, interesting piece here. Almost looking like cycling through effects here, but who knows? Very in this triangle at the top. Interesting play on the walking figure here, and keeping it nice and not too symmetric here at the bottom here. So interesting composition. Again, a hugely prolific artist. Edition of 31 for 3 Tezos. Here's Lucas Lejeune. Let's see if this plays. Here we go. And so just an interesting, kind of pixelated abstract here. So a very cool piece here. The pigeons are coming. Andre Oliveira. So, of course, this is the artist we saw with the glasses at the start. So wishing Andre well, who seems to have gotten dengue fever. That sounds kind of serious. And so, cool pixel art work, hey? Cool animated abstract. And Max Drecker. Great to see Max Drecker back on the scene. And maybe I just didn't see it in my feed, but this is kind of one of those classic Tezos artists that you discover early on and has been around for a while on Tezos. So just cool to see new work. It may have been coming out all along, but I finally came across it on my feed. So cool to see that, and great to see them. Mika Oladev. A nice still here for a second in this piece here. Again, combining these kind of glitching pixels or flashing pixels here with these larger ones in the background, almost gradiented out, but not quite. We're not seeing the same gradients as before. Here we have just a kind of interesting, kind of arguably glitched out shape a little bit in the background here, keeping things interesting. Cool portrait as usual from Mika Oladev. And here is Kota Nakazono with a new work, Continuum number 189. And here, kind of metallic looking fluid in the front here. Another life, incorporating a bit of text here, interestingly. And interesting move here, and a little bit of dripping here. So very interesting. Let's see what happened here. Accepting offers for 15, 12, and 10. And it looks like sold out work there. And Jada, with another cool animated abstract, Crystal number 33. So I think we've seen a few of these, haven't we? So here is a cool one. This is on Object, and this is 25 Tezos, edition of 1. So another one of 1 there. Sky Goodman, as we start moving our way into AI, although this is, I'm not sure if there's AI here. Usually there's some in Sky Goodman. Neural Nomads presents a group. So this is part of a larger drop. And this is Sky Goodman's contribution, but check out the whole drop here. It is on Object, and so if you find Sky Goodman's page, you should be able to find the entire drop here. And so some TVs here and everything from Sky Goodman. Cool work. And here's Klaus, another one of 1, selling for around probably 24, 25. This went to Somfe, who is one of the big early supporters, if I remember right, of Klaus's series here. Now on 108. So good for you, Klaus. Good for you. 106 is here. This is still available for 21 Tezos. And very nice gradient here. And just beautiful colors as usual. Keeping it interesting in the background. Just great work. This is Inavare. This is on Exchange. Cloud Bursting. This is an edition of 10 for half a sol each. And here, make sure that sometimes Exchange takes a couple of seconds to load up. So I think this is full resolution, I believe. So cool, just beautiful textures here from Inavare. Or maybe, there we go. Yeah, so this is the fully pixel, the full resolution version here. Beautiful at the bottom too, how it fades in. And we have another one here just on Twitter. Again, just beautiful textures here from Inavare. And color and everything. So doing really well there on Solana recently. And Walk with 1006, again, with what I think is a September 11th series here. And as you see up close, all that beautiful colored noise here, but just barely recognizable as maybe some people, maybe some rescue workers. It almost looks like the stock exchange. Again, very almost impressionistic work here from Walk. And again, you can usually get these pretty cheap. This went for 2 Tezos because they're going every day. And of course, there's been quite a few of them. This is a beautiful work by Bosque Gracias, another addition to the Native Textures series here. So again, beautiful kind of white clear negative here, and then cutting different photos. This almost looks inverted over here, but hard to say. Look at how big this is, too. Big file, get all that kind of dust and noise and hair and everything. Just a lot of nice randomness there, and just cut up, put on a light thing, and maybe, put on a light viewer, whatever you'd call that, and then a picture taken of it. Here's another one, Chapters, great title. And just these wonderful juxtapositions, beautifully colored here. This great purple, and here, maybe, and again, looking like it's from the 70s or something, just a really interesting take on photography and juxtaposition. Again, all of these works maybe by themselves wouldn't be nearly as interesting or visually appealing on their own, but here, using the negative here, and also by cutting them up, they turn into these, it's even like, to call them collage, like they're almost like paintings of a certain kind. Like they're beautiful. Here is Ellie Lowe. As I try and speed through this episode, let's see if this plays. Really struggling with the internet here. So you're going to see a figure, if this loads up, kind of like this ghost figure here. Loading up. You see this? If you can see that. There you go. So unfortunately, I don't think this is all going to load. So you may have to go to Ellie. Kind of a mundane action. Yeah, so again, the internet not cooperating here. But Ellie Lowe doing more interesting trash art here. Trashbag S2E2. It had kind of an interesting ending, I thought. Yeah. So another super interesting work from Ellie Lowe. This is edition of 13 for $440, already 4 sold. So the market continues here, I'm happy to say. Beautiful work by Scamra. This Woman at Computer series here, really nice textures here and just composition, right? Again, just really nice. And again, would be tempted, if you're a painter, to use, if you could make images like this on AI, to use these as source works for paintings would be amazing. They look amazing, but you probably don't need to. Like, this is probably the best way to do it. Why go that extra step? If it's already kind of within its own medium, its native medium here. And so this was kind of interesting here too, almost a hat tip to Mario Brothers and this brilliant keyboard here, fragmented keyboard, and this double image here, just embracing the errors of AI from Scamra, beautiful work. Here is some beautiful work by Lily Illo, another great AI painting. She's part of a design team and she's identified a problem. And so here, as you can see, this looks like the design team. And here are some chairs and just a really cool, very painterly composition here. And look at that. So just a very cool work. Is that a close-up? Yeah, I think that's that person here. So that's how detailed these AI artworks are getting. I mean, that's incredible. Just totally incredible. Here's one. But look at all these great AI artists. Yoa In. And don't forget Strange Thing, who we saw at the beginning. So another brilliant painting here. This time by Yoa In. Again, combining collage painting and AI. Here's another brilliant one by 0009 in this, what I think is a new series. Kind of feeling like on the subway here. And so, again, very just interesting work. And here's Little Cakes with the AI work. We'll see if it plays, Little Cakes. Big shout out to Little Cakes if you're watching. So really interesting piece here. As you see, maybe using a little bit of AI video. See if that plays. We'll get enough of it. So, and this kind of bird-like figure. I don't think there's any volume on this. No. So, and there's a cat. So just interesting piece here from Little Cakes, Soft Memory. Beautiful title. And as we're starting to finish up here, Tukes, again, another AI master here. and with a super original work. And here, if you had to say, like, where are the most exciting AI artists, I would venture to say it's on the blockchain. Like, I'm not seeing it when I go out. I think there's still, it's almost like NFTs. There's still kind of an ambivalence towards using AI. You might, like, I was at an art show yesterday. It was a group show. You'd wonder if they used AI there, if some people would be mad about it. You just wonder. So anyways, beautiful, interesting color here, pushing images forward as ever, Tukes. As we go into the physical work here, in our final minutes here, here is another cool work by Zoe Kim, almost playing with a computer-like or Mac user interface to a certain degree at the bottom, but here almost like a paint program. Come Back Tomorrow, kind of a children's book feel to it, but very sophisticated composition. I thought this was interesting too, because it kind of, like, here's like a modern artist, but I feel like it kind of gave a window into illuminated manuscripts. Like, it kind of demystified a little bit. It's like, oh, okay, that's not as hard as it looks. Like, and of course it's easier said than done, but just a window into how these things are done. You see, like, I'm impressed with the accuracy. This person has a lot of dexterity, like literal dexterity. They make this look easy. Actually, it's pretty hard to, because you can't screw up, right? You get that yellow outside the sun and game over. Cool work there. Here's an artist I've never seen before. Philippe Jenique, acrylics on canvas. Isn't this interesting? And I love the subject matter, sports, a very, very fun. Look at these. Michael Jordan, slam dunk contest, Jordan 87, Vince Carter in 2000. Look at that. So these look amazing. And I'm sure there's a huge market for these kind of works. Very, very cool art here. Cool artist. Love these sports works. It's Not Gallery, who we've looked at a ton of work from them that they put out, or showcasing artists. Spencer Harris. So interesting composition. They've got a real eye for the new out in the contemporary art scene. Like, to me, this is probably one of the most exciting galleries in the world right now. If I was like, if you just forgot about all the money, these guys, they keep showing very interesting work. I'm not sure where they're based out of. Next time we'll look. Rune Christensen, Quiet at Dawn. So, of course, this is the Kristen Hjellerde Gallery, if I'm not mistaken there. This is for their gallery in London, opening on the 8th of February. That is my birthday, actually. So look at how beautiful that is. It is coming up. And look at how beautiful this work is. So Rune Christensen, we've looked at some of Rune Christensen's work before. Zooming out a little bit, right? Okay, new show. What are you going to do? Is it going to be the same old, right up close to the vase of flowers, like Van Gogh composition? Or are you going to do something different? And Rune Christensen is now looking at interiors. Beautiful work here. Real eye for design. And here's Eloy with another interesting juxtaposition, looking like race car drivers. And here a heart. So super interesting on the side of a racetrack with a driver inside. That looks like a heart. So very interesting. Fill your heart with fuel for the roads you want to cover. So very interesting work from Eloy. And here, of course, is Walk on eBay, already a bid of 66 euros. Very impressive. Of course, Walk put out that manifesto of, selling art on the internet. So unapologetically, putting work on eBay. This is not satire. This is for real. And look at how beautiful this is. And this is real money. 66 Tezos for this Simpson dog. I think it's a Simpson dog, right? And look at how just masterfully painted here. Just brilliant. Even the color, everything, making it look so easy. This person's getting a steal for 66. Look at that. For 66 euros. And look at how professional this is. It's authentic. It's a real Walk. Take note for those that are doing physical from Walk, real professional. And that, my friends, is your show. Thank you for joining me on, once again, an extended version of this show. Have a wonderful weekend, and until next time, take care.